Hi, I'm Bree Todd, and this is Middle East News. In Egypt, the food prices have increased, and families are starting to cut down on consumption of meat and only reserve 2 meals a day. This is not good. Bread is a key component to Egypt's diet. The government knows that the increase of prices can cause civil unrest, and especially for people with little pay. Even doctors, who get the highest pay. So if they can't afford it, who can?
Queuing for bread in Egypt. A daily chore has turned into something potentially more deadly for millions of Egyptians. At least 10 people have died over the past 2 weeks in violence that has erupted at government-subsidized bakeries. Egypt is one of the world's largest importers of wheat, spending $2.6 billion this year alone. But with soaring food prices globally and no end in sight, it has driven many to the brink of starvation. People are feeling the squeeze of limited supply, but ever-increasing demand.
People are fighting, killing for bread. Some are pulling out knives. What is happening? What is this? Famine?
I've been standing here from 7 in the morning. It's now 2 p.m. and I can't even get hold of 1 loaf of bread. I've got 5 children. Do I now have to bribe someone to get 1 loaf of bread?
This is just the latest episode in a series of crises facing the government. Water shortages, rising house prices, and unprecedented unemployment figures. The poor say the government is failing the country and has called on the military to intervene.
The army's the only one capable to plant the people's wheat. We want the government to distribute the wheat fairly amongst the poor.
Whether or not that is the answer to this problem, with millions of Egyptians struggling to make ends meet, the most immediate question they want answered is, when will it all end? Jamal Al-Shayal, Al Jazeera.
So Egypt being one of the poorest countries and going through a famine right now, I can understand why even the middle class and the poor class would even riot, because they don't have bread on the table.
Yeah, and if you need bread and meat in your everyday diet and you can't afford it, then you're going to have problems, and 2 meals is not enough to sustain a normal diet.
Yeah, and I find it sad that they have to cut back on 2 meals and conserve on meat, because meat is a very key component to your diet, and so is bread. So if you can't afford bread, you don't have meat, then what do you have?
Yeah, and in the markets, women are fighting over just little flat pieces of bread. I mean, it's not a lot, but they're just fighting over it.
Yeah, so I'm thankful to have this bread.
Middle East News. The conflict within Israel between the Israelis and the Palestinians continues. On March 6, 2008, a Palestinian gunman entered the Merkab Harav Seminary, an all-boys Jewish religious school in Jerusalem, killed 8 students and wounded 9. He entered the cafeteria where about 80 students were gathered and fired an AK-47 rifle for several minutes. The assailant was shot dead by an off-duty Israeli army officer who had gone to school after hearing gunfire. A witness says, "When we got in, we saw young, 15, 16-year-old guys lying on the floor with their Bibles in their hands, all dead." Hamas spokeswoman Sami Abu Zari said Hamas, quote, "blesses the heroic operation in Jerusalem," end quote, carried out by a previously unknown Hezbollah group called Halil Freedom Battalions, the martyrs of Iman Mugniyeh and Gaza. Abu Zari also called the attack a natural reaction to Israeli aggression towards Palestinians. That statement made by Sami Abu Zari is unfair, because war is between soldiers and soldiers, not between civilians and civilians. So having an attacker come into a school with innocent schoolboys and killing 8 of them with a rifle is not a natural reaction. That's just using the power to kill.
It's a hate crime.
That is a really sick and unfair statement to make by Hamas, that killing civilians during a war is normal, because it's not.
Yeah, and when there is a war, it's between the soldiers and the soldiers. It's not between the civilians and the civilians. And it's pretty sad that innocent people from the Jerusalem school who are learning have to die, and they're not even, connected to the soldiers. So I just find that really sad.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be shot at their own school. That's where you're supposed to be safe. If you're on the battlefield, that's normal to die, but to have a civilian come to your school and kill you and your friends, that's not okay. And the fact that they call that heroic is sick. Hi, this is Keren again on Middle East News. On May 19th, the leader of Al-Qaeda, Ahmed Ali Ahmed, was sentenced to death for the murder of Archbishop Paulus Faraj Raho, age 65. In February, the Archbishop was kidnapped, and his driver and 2 bodyguards were killed right on the spot. Two weeks later, his corpse was found in a shallow grave. Apparently, kidnappings and attacks on the Chaldeans in Iraq are very common. The Sunni and Shia groups are mostly responsible for these hate crimes. Hi, this is Keren on Middle East News. The conflict between Israel between the Israelis and the Palestinians continues. On March 6th, the Palestinian gunmen entered the Merkat Raf seminary in all-good.
What am I saying?
And all boys students were gathered and fired an AK-47 rifle. The conflict. Oh, God, sorry. My name.
The city of Tikrit, here in northern Iraq, is now firmly under the control of American forces. Or is it? These members of the Iraqi resistance movement still loyal to Saddam Hussein think otherwise.
The Americans said that we fear our forces to swamp.
Degrada la Casa Blanca, en ritmo y fantasía, una guitarra no canta, canta mi Andalucía. عيونك حلوة، شفايفك غنوة، عيونك حلوة، شفايفك غنوة، يا عيني ويلي 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 ويلي، قولوا ما شاء الله. Degrada la Casa Blanca, en ritmo y fantasía, una guitarra no canta, canta mi Andalucía. Degrada la Casa Blanca, entre ritmo y fantasía, una guitarra no canta, canta mi Andalucía.